the Stop War Coalition here in Vancouver. We were here last weekend. In numbers, we're here again this weekend. We're going to march. We're going to take our message throughout downtown Vancouver. We're going to take our message into social media today. The signs have been helpfully equipped with the hashtag No War on Syria. Anybody with a smartphone, take a picture, tweet something against the war, let people know that you're here and that others from Vancouver are here standing with people all over the world and coast to coast in Canada today and this weekend, saying no to an attack on Syria and no to Canadian complicity in this latest war drive by the US in the Middle East. Stephen Harper made some comments about Syria on Friday at the G20 meetings in Russia. Now, Harper got his private meeting with President Obama, and the thing Harper really wanted to talk about was the Keystone XL pipeline, which Canada and the Canadian government and Harper are pushing hard to get that new tar sands pipeline approved by the US. So when Harper came out of this little meeting with Obama, he made his strongest comments yet in support of the US war drive against Syria. So maybe he's trading a little oil for blood in those politics behind closed doors. Harper's pushing the tar sands, and now he's pushing this latest war stronger than ever. Shame on Stephen Harper. And shame on John Baird, who's also been making saber-rattling comments. And both Baird and Harper have been speaking in the name of Canada. They've been saying Canada supports the US effort to go to war with Syria, along with 10 or 12 other countries that they cobbled together because they couldn't get the G20 to agree to a statement. But Harper and Baird are doing this only on their own. They're not doing it in the name of the Canadian people, and they do not speak for the majority in Canada, and they do not speak for us today here. The people of Canada are opposed to this war drive against Syria. Let's hear it. So, if you're tweeting and sending this out, add PM Harper on Twitter. Add Canadian government officials. Add your local MPs. Make sure they get the message loud and clear. We've got some media with us here today, but we know the media doesn't always give anti-war rallies prominent placement on the 6 o'clock news, so we need all of you to record these events, to write about this, to let your friends and family know who weren't able to be here today that this happened and that the majority in Vancouver and across Canada stand against this war. I'm going to invite up our first speaker here today from the local Syrian community, Faris. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Thanks everyone for being here, for being against war that's committed for the same criminal over and over and over. I just reviewed yesterday the US resume. Guess what I found? I'm just going to remind you. So the US is the only country in the world that used nuclear weapons to kill people. On Hiroshima and Nagasaki, everybody remember that, but just a refreshment. Again, they are the only country who used Agent Orange against the Vietnamese people. They killed over 400,000 people. It is a chemical weapon, guys. It is a chemical weapon. Shame on you. Shame on you. And guess what? They didn't stop there. They went to Iraq, and in Fallujah in 2004, they used depleted uranium against Fallujah people in Iraq. So they use again chemical weapons against civilians along with the British people. And guess what? In 2009, they supported the Israeli when they used also the white phosphor against Palestinian people and killed so many hundreds of people. So how we can trust these people who the only country who use chemical weapons and nuclear weapons to kill civilians? How are we going to trust people? They're not going to use it again against Syrian people. Who trusts him here? Raise your hand if you trust him. Of course they're going to use it. Imagine they're going to intervene in Syria to kill more Syrian. Already Syria being killed and they want to intervene to kill more Syrian. I want you to raise your voice. We want to stop this war, guys. Tomorrow they're going to vote. Imagine the Congress of the most powerful country in the world are voting to kill Syrian or not to kill Syrian. What a stupid meeting! Shame on you, congressman! All of you! Shame on everybody said yes to the war! Shame on everybody that's gonna kill another Syrian or another human being, regardless if you're Syrian, if you're Canadian, if you're Palestinian, it doesn't matter. We are all human. Look at you. There's no difference between you and you, between white and brown. We're all equal. They are the only country use nuclear weapon and chemical weapons against people, and now they want to intervene to use other chemical weapons under a pretext reason why that they have no proof other than YouTube. They're relying on YouTube to prove the war, and they did before using satellite image to go to Iraq. Sharing you, U.S. people, but big thanks to U.S. people who went down the street and said no to this war. And thanks for everybody here. I just want to let you know that Harvard guy who cut fund in public education and healthcare sent money to those terrorist people to equip them with the money and the weapon to kill more Syrian. He doesn't have money for public educations. He doesn't have money for healthcare. But he has money to support terrorists. He has money to support killers. We need to stop this guy. All of you need to take this guy to the court. We need our money back. $5.5 million went to support these people, and he announced a budget cut on them. Thanks. No war in Syria. No war in Syria. Thanks, everybody.
The war.
Stop Harper, stop the war.
Stop Harper, stop the war.
Stop Harper, stop the war.
No war on Syria.
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 Thank you, Faris. Let's hear it again for our Syrian brother, Faris. Let's hear it. And he makes a very good point. We want all Canadian arms sales and the whole military-industrial complex. Stop these corporate profits to flood the whole Middle East with weapons. Spend that money on healthcare and the needs of the people here in Canada. You know, we mentioned it last weekend, but the biggest recipient of Canadian weapons outside of the United States, U.S. is number one. Number two is Saudi Arabia, perhaps the most undemocratic regime in the whole region. So Canadian weapons through Saudi Arabia are already going to kill people in Syria. They were used to crush the democratic movement in Bahrain, and who knows what else those Canadian weapons are being put to. So we want an end to all Canadian arms shipments and sales to the entire region. Our next speaker is a friend and member of Stop War, and also a founding member of Sept, an important group here in Vancouver. Please give a warm welcome to Imtiaz Puppet.
Everyone, first of all, I want to recognize that we're on unceded, occupied Coast Salish territories, and the issues are definitely connected. It's about war and occupation, and the occupation of these lands as well. Whether we talk about Palestine or Syria, the issues are the same. I pray with a lot of some people in the Syrian community who are from the Shia minority, and they're very, very concerned about a possible regime change in Syria. Because if there is a regime change with the FSA or whatever, they're afraid what will happen to the minorities in Syria, whether they are Shia minorities, whether they're Christians or Jews. The fact is that whatever regime change will happen, it will be not the choice of the Syrian people, and the minorities need to be protected. What we really need is a secular democracy in Syria and in the entire region. And we need to make sure that all minorities are protected. It really doesn't matter who used the chemical weapons in this case. Russia says one thing, the US says another thing. It doesn't matter. The fact is that's not an excuse to bomb the people of Syria any further than they have been bombed and attacked so far. We need a peaceful solution in Syria, and this attack on bombing with weapons of mass destruction, when we attacked Iraq for the same reason, because Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and then we used the weapons of mass destruction to attack the people of Iraq. It does not make sense at all. And the fact that we can use chemical weapons, but if they use it, then we'll bomb the innocent people of Syria. That does not make sense at all. So thank you for being here. And this is really, really important that we will march to the U.S. consulate and throughout the downtown area here. And we need to keep up the momentum against this possible war on Syria and the people of Syria. I want to introduce you the next speaker. Next is my sister, Kambi Nanjala Maziba. She is from the African Great Lakes Foundation, and she's a refugee, and she can speak to the issue of war and how it affects people.
I'm standing here as a refugee. And what is on this paper carries all my So what is on this paper carries all my pain. I'm here today to thank the organizers of this event and express my sincere feelings on what is happening in Syria. I came to Canada as a refugee. Who really knows the pain more than us refugees? Who are separated from our families, homes, culture, history, that we loved most. It's us, the refugees, that know that pain. Families are more stronger when they are together. Why do we allow war to separate us? Why so many innocent deaths? Let's stand together and say no to death in Syria. Why should violence be allowed to continue in Syria? International community have failed to take constructive steps to promote peace-making efforts, which could have brought crisis in Syria to the end. Killing of innocent people, both elderly, women, children, should stop. I'm speaking on behalf of other African women as a whole. We are mothers, we are grandmothers. We go through the pain having carried each one of you for 9 months. We are vulnerable. We are vulnerable people. Our kids, let's protect them. We are human beings who need our protection and all the fundamental rights. Why are these killings? Why? Bombing is not peace. No. I worked in one of the refugees in Kenya, a camp called Kakuma. I didn't know that one day I'd be a refugee in another country. I was organizing like seminars, workshops for peace and reconciliation. The people there have different stories to say, different from each one of them. And to make things worse in Africa, Congo only, Congo has because of war, Congo has the highest rape in the world. Why do we allow that? Can we please protect the grandmothers? Can we please protect our children who are facing these persecutions globally? We read and see the newspapers, enmity between religious functions and that has been inflamed to such a degree that demonization of each by other, by creating fertile ground for slaughter and excuses for not negotiating with anyone with blood on their hands. Do we have in Syria, do we have first class and second class citizens? That is a question that we need to ask. In the eyes of God, we are the same. I don't think in war there is a winner. I don't think. Instead, it's losing innocent lives and the defenseless people. Since the days of Roman Empire to the West European Empire, France, Great Britain, etc. to today, the world has witnessed most violent period in human history. In every continent from Africa to the South, Central America, Asia, Europe, North America, Middle East, Caribbean, the people have been victims of systematic oppression, wars, exploitation, and slavery. I believe and I know that there is hope worldwide against tyranny and oppression from the people. People like you and me. I have hope for humanity. I believe a world that can live in peace and harmony. I believe in a world where all nations respect each other. Nations that understand the people have different cultures, beliefs, and religion, customs that is different and unique. We have our rights as human beings. In the name of religion, lives are lost. Power struggle, we see it. Let's make peace. Peace, peace, peace in Syria. Syria has to, the war in Syria has to end. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, my name is Charles Boylan. I'm co-emceeing the rally today with Derek. And I'd like to, at this point, yell a few slogans. Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria!
No war in Syria!
No war in Syria!
Uphold Syrian sovereignty!
Uphold Syrian sovereignty!
All right, I would like to, at this point, read a note that was sent to me by a colleague, the president of Local 7 of the Education, Training and Employees Association. These are the private ESL, unionized private ESL teachers in Vancouver, Graham Cheadle. He writes as follows, and he can't be here today, unfortunately, because he's out of town, but he sent the following message to the rally. Speaking on behalf of Local 7 of the Education and Training Employees Association, I would like to express my opposition to the proposed war against Syria by the United States in the strongest possible terms. Coming just a few years after the grave breach of international law that was the Iraq War, an example of the supreme war crime of aggression in the words of the Nuremberg tribunals, and further limited but nonetheless deadly wars and airstrikes in Libya, Somalia, Yemen and Pakistan, as well as the ongoing occupation of Afghanistan. This planned military action would only further exacerbate tensions in the volatile region, leading to more unnecessary death and destruction and further undermining Syrian civil society already reeling from more than 2 years of deadly war sponsored by various external powers, leading to extremism and war crimes on all sides. The lies and obfuscations of the current American administration have sadly changed little from those of the preceding one, and the results are likely to be as horrific. Genuine peace efforts are needed in Syria, but these will never come to fruition as long as it is viewed as a battlefield for world powers to advance their state interests instead of a humanitarian catastrophe desperate for real aid. No to war against Syria. Yes to meaningful mediation between the warring sides for the benefit of all Syrians and the peoples of the wider region. In solidarity, Graham Cheadle, President, Local 7, Education and Training Employees Association, Vancouver. So friends, I think it's extremely important that the anti-war discussion, the anti-war narrative, get carried broadly amongst trade union workers, unionized workers, as well as unorganized workers. One of the ways of imposing war on a population is to shut the mouths of the ordinary people through depoliticization, through making it a social abnormality to talk about such important matters as war and peace. And we're very honored to have amongst us today a trade unionist, very active trade unionist, Terry Engler. He's president of Local 400 of the International Longshore and Warehouse Workers Union, the Marine section. He's also vice president of the Vancouver and District Labour Council. Let's have a hand for Terry Engler.
Labor against war. I stand here in front of you. I've been at these rallies for many years. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be learning. We have to learn. I don't profess to understand what's going on in Syria or how to solve the problems in Syria, but what I do know is that if you look back at history, military interventions have never been good for people. People have died. Iraq was destroyed. The intervention in Libya has resulted in the destabilization of Northern Africa. There is no way that an intervention, a military intervention, is going to change things. If there was a lot of hope when President Obama came into power that he would do things differently, and I guess what I would hope is that he sees there still is that possibility, and doing something differently would be to say, instead of saying we're going to go to war, have the Americans join part of the International Court of The Hague and say, basically, we're going to treat you as criminals and you're going to end up in jail for the rest of your lives, and we're not going to, at every moment, we're going to use our military power and kill and destroy. War and the military are the most destructive forces in the world. and we need to stop them, and any intervention at this point is not going to help anybody in Syria. It's just going to exacerbate the situation, and I simply say it can't happen. Let's stop it from happening, and hopefully they'll see the way and will start not intervening militarily, but intervening to de-escalate things, to work out solutions, because in the end, that's the only solution, is a peaceful solution for Syria. Thank you.
Engler, Vancouver District Labour Council, and the labour movement here in Vancouver saying no to war. Money for workers, not for war.
Money for workers, not for war.
Money for workers, not for war.
Money for workers, not for war.
No war on Syria.
No war on Syria.
No war on Syria.
No war on Syria.
We are gonna march. We're gonna take our message throughout the rest of downtown Vancouver. We have a couple more speakers. Next one I want to invite up is Charlotte Cates, a Palestine solidarity activist here in Vancouver. And then we're gonna have Kat Norris lead us on the march. So Charlotte, give a welcome to Charlotte Cates, please.
Today, as we are here in Vancouver in front of the art gallery, a location that has seen protests, marches, and demonstrations against the war on Iraq in 2003, against the Israeli war on Lebanon supported by Stephen Harper and his government in 2006, against the war on Gaza in 2008 and 2009, and again last year in November. These steps and these streets have seen people of this city come together to say no to war, no to occupation, no to bombing, no to cruise missiles, and we're here to say that again today, that we say no to a U.S. war on Syria. And just as we are here today from the labor movement, from the people's movement, as we are here today on the unceded land of the Coast Salish people, as we are here today on indigenous land that is being misused as a land to launch wars and strikes around the world, as we're here today as the labor movement, as we're here today as students, as workers, as youth, as representatives of communities, as refugees, as immigrants, as we're here today, Stephen Harper is at the G8 meeting. And what Stephen Harper is saying is exactly the opposite of what we're saying here today. Stephen Harper is calling on the world to engage in a war against Syria. Stephen Harper is urging military strikes on Syria now. So we are here to say no to Obama, no to Harper, no to France, Syria's former colonial power that is also urging war on Syria. No to Saudi Arabia, and no to Israel, no to the unholy alliance that is threatening yet another war to destroy and divide and kill Arab people and Arab land. We say no, and we are committed to continuing to say no. We're not here for one day, for 2 hours, for a short span outside the Vancouver Art Gallery. We're here to say that we are going to continue to organize, to march, and to struggle, that we're going to take these messages to our communities and build a movement that says no to war on Syria, no to sanctions on Syria, no to the death and destruction that comes at the hands of cruise missiles.
You better know before Thursday.
We know.
They're taking a vote tomorrow
Exactly, and that's why we're here today, because they are taking a vote. So that's why we all need to listen to one united message and say no war on Syria! No
war on Syria!
No war on Syria!
No war on Syria!
Now we know that for the last 2 years, the Syrian people have been suffering a horrendous civil war that has consumed many lives. And we know that the Syrian people have many identities, many political backgrounds, many opinions, many perspectives, and a high level of diversity. We know that. And we also know that democracy and freedom and human rights and justice and equality and liberation will never come at the end of a U.S. cruise missile. The only thing that U.S. cruise missiles bring is destruction, death, devastation, and yet more horror and pain. So we stand today with people of Syria, just as we stand with the people of Palestine, just as we stand with the people of Iraq and the people of Afghanistan and Pakistan and Yemen that are daily suffering U.S. drone strikes, to say no war on Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Sorry for Charlotte. Did the other day at the G20 is he announced he'd be cutting another $45 million check to some of the forces that Canada's supposedly supporting in Syria, not for refugee aid, but political monies to go to the opposition that Canada's working with. Harper has that kind of cash. They spend, what is it for one fighter jet again? The price keeps going up, but hundreds of millions of dollars they want to spend for one fighter jet. The entire peace movement runs on maybe a few tens of thousands of dollars a year on Vancouver and maybe $50,000 across the whole country. So we do need money to print signs, to print posters, to get the message out. We have no paid staff, but so all of your donations here today will go to the next rally and the next leaflets and the next signs we need to print. So 2 people here are going to be going around with buckets. Please give generously. All the funds, as I say, go to recoup the costs of these and similar rallies put on by Stop War. So please chip in. And in the meantime, I lied a little bit. We have 1.5 more speakers before we march. But thank you for being here and standing. And we're gonna get walking soon. But for now, give generously and pass it back to Charles here. Thanks.
We're going to try and get a word from Michel Chasadowski, who is in Montreal. I think most of you know his website on international events and politics. If it doesn't work, I'll just give you a straightforward greeting. Michel, go ahead and fire away. Let's see if we can pick up your voice. Michel, I have to say, I'm going to have to just give greetings on your path. Michel, when I spoke to him earlier today, he wanted to make 2 points. First of all, it's all based on a lie. A big lie is being repeatedly told. The lie is that the Syrian government unleashed gas against its own population. That's the first point he wants to make. The second point he wants to make is that only through the mass activities of Canadians and USians and the British people and the world's people all around the world joining voices together to stop war can we put an end to war. So that's the message from Michel Chasadowski. And I think our next speaker is Gail Davidson. She just wants to say a few words on the issue of war and law. So Gail Davidson is an activist with the Lawyers Against War. I'd like you to give her a big hand, please. Gail Davidson.
Much, everybody. Thanks for standing up and speaking, saying no to war on Syria. I just want to talk a little bit about the law so that when you speak to your workmates and your neighbors and the people in your family that you can have some legal points to make. The UN Charter absolutely prohibits the use of force against the state except in self-defense or when the use of force is authorized by the UN Security Council, and as you know, neither of those conditions exist now. The military attacks that Barack Obama is threatening and that Stephen Harper is encouraging are absolutely and utterly illegal in international law and in domestic law. Stating that military intervention in Syria is necessary to show other nations that the U.S. won't tolerate the use of chemical weapons is appalling and criminal fakery. We must not allow our elected representatives to encourage, attempt to justify, or fail to oppose such horrendous crimes in the name of humanitarian intervention. We must correct news broadcasters when they uncritically repeat unproven claims as facts and illegal actions as humanitarian. We must remind both our elected representatives and purveyors of the news that the more illegal and ruinously destructive the planned military action, the more likely it is to be dubbed as having an urgent humanitarian purpose. We must remind them of the lessons from history. In 1939 and 1940, Hitler told the German parliament that the invasions of Poland and Czechoslovakia were necessary to restore democracy for Germans living in those countries. The U.S. bombed Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, killing millions and using weapons that continue to kill to this day to save democracy and stop the spread of communism. In Nicaragua, the U.S. mined the harbors with bombs and armed the Contras to protect human rights. NATO bombed and destroyed Yugoslavia to prevent a genocide that never happened. In Afghanistan, the U.S. dubbed their brutal carpet bombing of one of the poorest countries in the entire world as Operation Enduring Freedom. The massive military attack on Iraq was called Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the U.S. issued press releases saying the purpose was to find weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, and the other purpose was to free the Iraqi people. Such justifications have been rejected by every court that has ever heard them, which includes the Nuremberg tribunals and the International Court of Justice, and most of these have involved false flag operations. These illegal wars have cost millions of deaths, millions of injuries, millions of displaced persons, and have destroyed entire cultures and entire ecosystems. The right or duty to use military force against other states for humanitarian purposes has been rejected as illegal and dangerous by all except for the states who claim the right to use it. For example, in 2000, 133 developing nations unanimously passed a resolution saying, we reject the so-called right of humanitarian intervention which has no legal basis in the United Nations Charter or in the general principles of international law. So it's up to you and I, it's up to us as individuals and in groups to persuade our elected representatives not to be flummoxed by the propaganda of urgent humanitarian purpose, and to remind them that any military force used on Syria by the US, by Canada, or any other nation outside Syria is absolutely and utterly illegal. Thank you for doing that.
Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria!
No war and sanctions on Syria!
No war and sanctions on Syria!
No to war!
No to war!
For an anti-war government!
For an anti-war government!
Okay, we're just about ready to march out. I want to just remind everyone that Stop War has issued a statement to the effect, if the United States starts bombing sometime during the week, then we will hold an emergency rally here on a weekday at 6 p.m. If it happens on next weekend, we will be here at 2 p.m. So if there is war, if there is violence, we have to be here. And Stop War will also have to consider whether we should just keep holding these demonstrations on the weekend as well, just to keep the pressure up against Harper and against the war makers. Now, we're going to be marching behind the Stop War banner to Robson, and we're going to go down Robson here to Butte, and then we're heading north. As best I know, that's what the plan is. And so we'll be yelling slogans. We're going to be stopping at the U.S. consulate. A couple of women have asked to speak, and we're going to try and fit them. We will fit them in at the U.S. consulate. We have a portable PA system, so everybody who speaks en route will have a chance to have their voice heard loud and clear. Everybody has to have their voices well exercised for against these wars. So once again, before we march off, U.S. don't attack Syria.
U.S. don't attack Syria.
No war on Syria.
No war on Syria.
All right, now we're going to call Kat Norris. Kat Norris is an indigenous person from the Salish people here. She belongs to an organization that has been very active in promoting indigenous rights, and she's here to say a few words and then to drum us into our march. Kat Norris, please.
Hello everyone, Kat Norris here. My Indian name is Kutsamawat, and let's hear it for Stop War! that someone would organize something like this, and I'm glad that it's going to keep on going. You know, society needs to hear the voice of the people, and a lot of these actions are taken not on behalf of the people. You know, we have to ask why they're doing. There's more than just, you know, what the government is saying, what Obama and his cronies are saying. You know, there's obviously a financial situation there as well. But I stand here and I wanted to send blessings to all of you that are doing this work, and to keep talking to people. For every 5 people you talk to, that's going to spread out. So don't just leave it here. When you go home, organize forums at your colleges. Keep this movement going so that it gets bigger. That's the only way that it's going to get bigger, if people keep talking. Talk to your children. You know, organize events in your neighborhood. Organize forums and talk to people. But I know that you guys have been waiting for a long time. And what I ask, the Musqueam people of Cessna are organizing an event today that I need to get to as well, after my own little gig right after this. So I'm going to ask if I can put my drum in trust of you. I'll go around, start the march with you guys, and then I have to go. But if someone can take care of my drum is Idle No More. And obviously you guys are all Idle No More too! I'm going to sing a warrior song for you, and I want to make sure that you know that I stand here on behalf of my people. As I don't have to tell you what happened to the indigenous people of this land, this beautiful continent, and all the indigenous peoples around the world that are damaged by, I don't call it a war, I call it genocide against innocent people.
Shame.
So I'm going to sing this song for you, and it's an honor song, it's a warrior song just for you guys today.
Syria! No war in 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 Syria!
No war in Syria! No war in Syria!
No war in Syria! No war in Syria! No war in Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! off Syria! Hands 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 off Syria! Syria! Hands off 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 Syria! Syria! Hands off 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 Syria! Es una Syria! Hands off 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 Syria! off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria!
Hands
Off Syria! Hands off Syria!
Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria! Hands off Syria!
We want peace!
We want peace! We